Hello everyone. Welcome to the session on phylum Mollusca. In this presentation, we will be looking into the classification of phylum Mollusca into different classes, along with the brief description on the class Aplacophora. This particular classification given in the slide, it is based upon the classification proposed by Rupert and Barnes, 1994. Phylum Mollusca, along with Annelida, it was placed under Lophotrochozoa, and it is believed that it, from the ancestors of the mollusca or the molluscan ancestors, arose two ancestral stock. It is just named here, numbered 1 and 2, almost like more than 500 million years ago. That is, the ancestral mollusk, it evolved on the earth almost more than 500 million years ago, right? And you can see the ancestral 1 and 2 is one of the most primitive mollusks, and these ancestral mollusks gave rise to the ancestral 1, it gave rise to bivalvia and monoplacophora, and another ancestral 3. Okay. At the same time, ancestor 2, it gave rise to two classes, Aplacophora and Polyplacophora. Okay, so 4 groups you can see, that is the bivalvia, or it is otherwise known as Pelecypoda. So for the time being, we will term it as bivalvia itself. Okay, the bivalvia, monoplacophora, Aplacophora and Polyplacophora, they arose from the ancestors which were present more than 500 million years ago. Okay, so they arose from an ancestor which lived so much of years before. Later, after plenty of years, millions of years, the ancestral 3, they gave rise to 2 stocks. One was class Gastropoda, another one again the ancestral 4. Okay, this ancestor 4, it later evolved into class Cephalopoda and class Scaphopoda. So you can see the Cephalopoda and Scaphopoda, they are recently evolved classes, and it is considered to be the advanced mollusks. Okay. While the bivalvia, monoplacophora, aplacophora and polyplacophora, they are considered to be primitive groups. And among these, even the aplacophora is considered to be more closely related with the ancestral mollusks because of certain characters they possess. Okay, so we can see what are the various groups based upon the features. Okay, you can see this is this shows a phylogeny. This is actually a phylogram. The phylogeny of mollusks. You can see the ancestor of mollusk. It had reduced coelom. Okay, they had mantle, an ancestral foot. They had a radula. So all the members evolving from this ancestor will have all these characters. So these characters were found in the ancestral mollusks as well. Okay. Now, from such an ancestor arose the first one to evolve from such an ancestor. It was the Codofoveata and Solenogaster. Okay, the Codofoveata and the Solenogaster. It is being regarded as different classes by certain scientists, but as per Rupert and Barnes, 1994, these two have been placed under class Aplacophora. Codofoveata and Solenogaster, it is being placed under class Aplacophora. Okay, now, what are the differences? Actually, these two are considered to be very closely related with the ancestral mollusks. Both do lack a shell. Instead, they have scale-like spicules, or they have calcareous spicules. They have worm-like body, they have vermiform body. So all these characters are actually very closely related to the ancestral mollusks. Next to evolve was Polyplacophora. This Polyplacophora, it evolved from an ancestor having all these characters plus a muscular foot, because ancestral foot got evolved into a muscular foot, and again shell glands and shell evolved in the later evolved in ancestor. Okay, and this ancestor, it gave rise to Polyplacophora, which had 8 plated shells. That is a shell with 8 distinct plates. Okay, so all Polyplacophorans, they evolved from an ancestor having a shell, right? These two groups were shell-less, isn't it? The Cyanogastra and Codophobia. But the Polyplacophora, they arose from an ancestor with a shell. Okay, now this ancestor with the shell and the muscular foot, they evolved further, and they had only a single shell gland. That is, in the previous earlier ancestor, they had one or a few shell glands, but it got reduced to a single shell gland. So the later groups that evolved, they had only a single shell gland. Okay, shell was there, but only a single shell gland. From such an ancestor with a single shell gland, the first to evolve was Monoplacophora. The Monoplacophora were distinct with nephridia and other segmental organs. Okay, Monoplacophora. And at the same time evolved the other two groups, the Gastropoda and Cephalopoda. The Gastropoda, they showed a very unique character of torsion. Okay, a torsion where the internal organs, the placement of internal organs get changed during the course of development. Okay, so torsion. While Cephalopoda, they uniquely developed a closed circulatory system. That means all other groups had open circulatory system, isn't it? The closed circulatory system, they had developed ink sac, and they had arms and tentacles. So these three characters were unique to Cephalopoda. Okay, and torsion was unique to Gastropoda. But these two evolved from a common ancestor. And this common ancestor had a single shell gland and dorsoventrally elongate body, and they showed shell coiling. Okay, this shell coiling is what is referred as a torsion later. Okay, now, so the one with a single shell gland, the ancestor with a single shell gland, they evolved further, and during the course of evolution, they developed a reduced head, a decentralized nervous system, a mantle surrounding the entire body. Okay, and such an ancestor with all these characters, from them evolved two groups. One was Bivalvia and another was Scaphopoda. Bivalvia, uniquely they had a bivalve shell, and radula was lost in them. Okay, as we have already seen what was radula and the characteristic features of radula, we saw that Mollusca, they do have, all the mollusks do have radula, because it was present in the ancestral mollusk, but except for Bivalvia. Right, now, the same ancestor over here, it evolved into Scaphopoda as well. This Scaphopoda, they developed a tusk-shaped shell unique to Scaphopoda, and the tunicula, which was meant for respiration, respiratory structure, it is otherwise known as gill, it was lost in Scaphopoda. So this is the phylogeny of the different groups of mollusks. I suppose it is somewhat clear. Okay, but we will be considering these two groups under a class, Placophora. Okay, so here these are the 7 classes which you are going to learn in the coming presentations. We have Scaphopoda, Cephalopoda, Gastropoda, and Pelecypoda. Okay, Bivalvia is otherwise known as Pelecypoda. Then we have is the Placophora, Polyplacophora, and Monoplacophora. Okay, so these are the 7 classes which we are going to learn in detail in coming presentations.